Hey guys, Silicon Slave here. Today I've just got a couple quick tips for when you're first starting out with Ableton, how to improve your workflow and learn the program more quickly. These are all things that I wish I knew when I first started out. Anyway, so we'll get right into it. Let's grab, we've already got an operator loaded up here. Open up the whole thing so we can see it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is this little triangle in the left-hand corner here. This is a godsend when you're first starting out with Ableton, because what it does is you open it up, and then when you hover over any parameter, it's going to explain to you what the fucker does. And I know when I first started out, you're looking at this all here, and you're like, oh my god, what is all this shit? So having this really allows you to figure out what it is you're doing, so you're not just randomly throwing shit around. Let's take this synth we've got here. Gonna make a MIDI track. Command-Shift-M is the shortcut to do that, or if you're using Windows, Control-Shift-M. So we're gonna make a little MIDI note, drag it all the way down here. Now, if you see this little headphone thing up here, if you click this, when we click on the note, it's going to let us actually hear what we're playing. And that can be really useful if you want to draw your melodies in, or also just to demo the sound. So we'll turn that back off. So that same headphone thingy actually applies to a lot of different effects in Ableton. So for instance, we'll grab out this EQ. Now, normally, if you want to know what you're listening to, you have to make this huge spike and just roll it through to actually tell what you're boosting or cutting. But if we click here on this little headphone thing, it does the exact same thing as the MIDI, where it lets us demo whatever little band of the frequency we've pulled out. So I'll show you what that means. So let's say I don't like that bit. All we have to do makes EQing a whole lot easier. Alright. Next up, something we can look at is reverb. I'm not going to go into any great detail with this, but I'm going to show you something you can do really easily to improve the way the reverb is going to sound. So right here, where it says quality, you want to put that on high. By default, it's on economy, and that's to save you computing power. But high, it's just going to sound much better. The problem, though, is that if you have a bunch of these all running at high quality, you end up using a lot of processing power, and eventually your tracks start to slowly die. And we don't want that. So a good way to save on processing power is to process, especially your reverb, in a send channel or a bus, depending on what you want to call it. So these two here are the send channels right above the master. So there's already a reverb in here, but for the sake of argument, let's make a new one. So we've taken the reverb from here, we've put it here. In general, with these, you want to have it at 100%, but there's no hard and fast rules. And the way that we're gonna make this actually affect this channel here is with these two little things. So these actually show how much of the signal from this channel is getting sent here. So basically what these sends do is they allow you to route a bunch of different signals and a bunch of different information all through one reverb. So we could have like a million different channels all going at the same time. And this is why it's really good for reverb, because they all sound like they're in the same room, in the same space. And it makes it sound more real. If you have like a bunch of different reverbs, one's really tiny, one's really big, one's in the middle, your ears are like, what the fuck's going on? It doesn't sound like a real place. So anyway, I'll show you. We just drag up here. And I'll turn this down a little bit more. Now we got a nice juicy reverb. Okay, so let's see. What's something else interesting we can do? Another useful thing, to open up the automation, you just click here. You probably already know that. There's a few different ways you can actually put automation into Ableton. The classic way is to just click on your parameter, and you can just draw some dots and go whoop, 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 whoop. You got a nice little fucking. Now the problem with that is a lot of times it sounds a little bit too quantized and a little bit too mechanical, and it doesn't really sound particularly like performance or like real shit happening. So a way to combat that is by just recording your automation in by hand. Now you don't actually have to have a MIDI controller or anything to do this. All you need is the track. So what you do, you want to make sure the record enable is not enabled, because otherwise when we do this, it's just going to write over the MIDI. So anyway, all you do is you hit the record button and then just start fucking with shit. So we'll do that now. And so in that way, we can get a much more dynamic and much more live sounding performance out of our automation. And it's just not this very stiff mechanical sort of thing. So another thing that's useful in this sort of automation view is you can click this little plus button over here. And what that's going to do is it's going to make a separate channel just for this line of automation. You can see, so now it's separated. And a cool thing that we can do now that it's separated is we can take, let's say we want to get another parameter. For the sake of argument, let's use tone. So we can literally just go here and you get Command C or Control C, depending on which operating system you're using, and you can just pop it straight back in there. So now we've got this following the filter, which is really cool. And we can also, look, you can pull up, pull down, so we can say, we can even offset it, so we can move it slightly to the left or to the right, and it'll just pop by the grid into where it needs to go. So, okay, so let's say we've got all that, we're liking the sound of it, and we wanna do more though. We're not we're not fully satisfied. We like where we've started, but we think, this needs to be more freaky. So a good way to do that is to take the MIDI and then turn it into audio, because once we have it in audio, we can do all kinds of dumb shit. We can stretch it really long, we can squish it really tight, we can cut it up, we can do a whole lot of different stuff in audio that we can't do in MIDI. And audio has some drawbacks too, because there's not as flexible. Once you've made the changes, it's kind of it. So the quickest way in Ableton to do this, and this is something, it's pretty much why I switched from Logic to Ableton, just because the workflow's a lot faster. You literally just hit. Now that it's frozen, all we have to do, you can freeze it in place by right-clicking here and hitting flatten. Although, because I like to preserve the MIDI in case I want to change something later, what I'll do is I'll hold down Option and drag it into a new audio channel. And now, we just unfreeze this, turn it off, and we're going to want to turn this down to the volume that this is at, because otherwise it's going to blow our ears out. Boom, got it. And if you want, there's the tail there as well. So that's good. There's more than one way to do this though. Sometimes you'll find, for whatever reason, that the automation and like parameters you've had moving around, they don't translate correctly when you freeze it. It used to be that you couldn't freeze when you had a compressor on. They've changed that now. But so a way to work around this is using resampling. So these right here, these are the inputs and outputs that each channel's rolling with. And you can change and hide and show these down here, along with a bunch of other parameters as well. So another way to record this from MIDI to audio is we're going to take this, we're going to solo it, and then we're just going to record exactly what it's playing. And this, it's good for a number of reasons. Like I said, if the automation isn't working properly, or sometimes if you have like a really long track and you want to just record one little bit, it saves you a lot of space and time doing it this way too. So here we go. Boom, we got it. So another thing, I don't know if you've noticed, but the reverb actually went longer than the actual track did. And the reason for that is because we're using this send. So this send is continuing to play, but we're only recording from here, and it's the same if we freeze and flatten. So a way that we can work around this by using this resampling trick is, instead of just soloing this, we're going to solo the reverb as well. And so that's going to sum the two tracks together and give us the nice thick juicy that we're looking for. So let's try that now. You can see now we got the whole tail. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk with you guys today about. Just a few quick, simple things that you can do to make your workflow faster and make learning the program a little bit less daunting and a little bit more inviting. Thanks so much for watching my video. Have a listen to my music, Silicon Slave. And if you have any ideas for videos, stuff you want to learn, just hit me up, send me a message, or leave a comment, and I will do it for you. All the best, guys.